Hello everyone. Today we're going to do a install of the Timney trigger for the shotgun, the Rock Island, or any AR style 12 gauge mag fed shotgun. This was the Timney trigger Impact SG, which is a impact shotgun. It has a 3 to 4 pound pull, and we're gonna get started on it. Check and make sure it's clear. It's clear. We're going to go ahead and separate the upper from the lower. Okay, we're going to set the upper aside. We're just going to work with the lower. First thing you need to do is go ahead and release or remove the right side safety. Take that out, set that aside, and then we're gonna go ahead and remove the I've got some anti-rotation pin on here, so I'm gonna remove that, and then just push the pins out. Okay, it's got a couple of E-clips there. I'm going to go ahead and push the pin out. I'm going to go ahead and do the hammer pin first. I'm going to drop the hammer. I'm going to push that pin out. Pin is out. Hammer out. Now I'm going to push the trigger pin out. And then go ahead and take the what we have to do is take the safety detent and spring out. Just make sure you keep your fingers over on top of this threaded insert here, the spring, and then the detent, the ball, and then you should be able to just pull out your safety and the trigger assembly here. Now the Timney trigger is a drop-in trigger. It does come with a set of bushing. Now depending on which style AR or which manufacturer you have, these bushing can be, the silver one can be pushed out to insert these black one. I would, just like the instruction from Timney, is to go ahead and try to test fit with the factory installed silver bushing to see if your pin alignment is good. If it's good and it's there's no slop or any issue with installing it, I would keep the silver one in there. But the instruction says if it doesn't, you can try the black insert, the bushing, and you can either use one silver or one black. In this situation, I believe that my VR80 lines up pretty good, so I'm going to try just using the silver bushing first. So basically it's a drop-in trigger. Once you got everything out, the main thing is once you put in basically the hammer pin, you want to go ahead at this time to insert your safety, and then fit in your which used to be the trigger pin, and you want to make sure you get that in, because otherwise you will not get the safety back onto the other side of it. But it's kind of hard here, but you would go ahead and fit it, push it through. At this point, I'm not gonna put the E-clip back on. I wanted to see if I can get the safety and basically do a quick function test. So in this situation, it looks like it's working good. Now the safety itself is that with the trigger in place, there was a lot of tension on the safety on this particular VR80. So what I did was let me get this back out. Take this pin back out. Remove the upper pin. Remove the safety. And what was happening is that the safety with this setup, and part of that is Timney instruction says that once you have the trigger pack inside the receiver, is to go ahead and tighten down these two set screw to where it bottoms out to the receiver. And you don't want to over torque that. You just want to make sure that it touches and there's no slop in the trigger pack itself. But what's happening is once it's installed and those two set screws is bottomed out against the receiver, as I engaged the safety, there was no clearance between the safety and the tail on the trigger itself. Now, I would recommend you contacting Timney if you come across that problem. I myself just went ahead and did it, risk it, but I'm not saying for you to do it. I would recommend you contacting Timney tech support and seeing what their solution is. But in this situation, my safety lever come in contact with the tail of the trigger, and it would binding up. It would not allow me to go full, rotate it fully to the safe position. So for me, what I did was I filed down this tail section on the trigger and slowly, and allow for and refit and allow for the safety to rotate with minimal minimal friction against it or tolerance in there. And so finally, when I got it to a point where I feel comfortable that the safety engages into this detent and allow it to lock in place in the safe or the fire position, I went ahead and reinstalled the trigger. And at that point, everything through the function test, everything worked fine. But that's something that you would need to determine for yourself and be in contact with Timney before you make any modification on the trigger. So at this point, basically drop the trigger in, put the front pin in, make sure it's aligned, put the safety in, and then put the rear pin in. Okay. And at this point, you want to go ahead and drop the safety detent ball, the spring, and then the threaded basically set screw. And one of the things that it says is to make sure when you first unscrew it to see where your set screw is set, and that way you still have the same tension on the detent. And so in this situation, it's functioning the way it should. Pin in, okay, and function test. With it, the safety disengage, so it's in the fire position. I can pull the trigger. Okay, now lock, release the trigger, disconnect, held, and now in the safe position, it's in the trigger does not move. In the fire position again, move, lock, release, catch. So your basic function test on the trigger install, everything seems to be functioning the way it should. At this point, we'll go ahead and move it over to here to put the E-clip or back in. And on my anti-rotation. Okay, and that's on. And then we're going to go ahead and put our safety lever on the other side back on. We're going to do a little blue Loctite here on the fastener. Okay, we're going to test it again with the trigger. With the safety lever in the safe position, the trigger is no movement. In the fire position, just make sure you cover that hammer, and fire, hammer goes forward, back, lock, disconnect, and it stops. So everything seems to be functioning the way it's supposed to. Okay, and that's the install of the Timney Impact SG trigger. And we're going to go ahead and reassemble. Okay. Safe. Fire. Fire. Reset. With the hammer, or with the trigger back, catch. Okay. Now, that is the installation of the Timney Impact SG trigger. We'll go ahead and test it out soon and see how it functions. If there's any malfunction, any issue with it, but so far so good. Like I said, the only issue with that I had was making sure that the safety can rotate on that the tail of the trigger itself. But that's something like I said, you would need to get with Timney about. I'm not recommending one way or the other what you should do. That's what I saw, and I was able to take some material off of it to where the safety rotates freely and there's no binding. Again, do it at your own risk. I'm not telling you what to do. That's something you need to decide. But for me, on this particular VR80, there was an issue with the safety lever rotating on the tail of the trigger itself. Well, thank you for watching. We'll let you know with the follow-up how it performs at the range. Well, we're going to be testing the Timney Impact SG trigger, and we'll see how it runs today.